just like we all predicted coming into the season, it all comes down to this. Shane Bieber on the mound with a chance to bring the Guardians home some hardware.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. On today's show, we have a game to talk about. Nice to say. This week, it feels like there are not many games. For any of you who are new with the Fast Channels format, I am Jeff Ellis. Been here since the beginning of the baseball network at Locked On. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at 24/7 and Scout. And before that, I wrote at, I think I was the first writer brought on at Indians Prospect Insider back in the day. Before that, I wrote on MySpace for a time. That's the first place I ever published articles was on MySpace. I do remember that. I am that old. Justin, take it away.
Oof, I don't want to go back to the beginnings with me, but I just came up on a year here. I think I came in literally after the Guardians clinched the division last year, so I think I just hit my 1 year anniversary here. So I don't know if we can find a cake in the freezer or some champagne to pop. We'll see. Maybe there's some celebration cake to go through from a year ago. Let's see. I'm old enough to have written for Bleacher Report before it got big. If anybody remembers that, when it was like a small little nothing site, and I left thinking it was going to be nothing. And I still don't really have high regard for Bleacher Report, but I was also at Indians Prospect Insider / Indian. Well, I shouldn't say I was never an Indians Prospect Insider. I was at Indians Baseball Insider as the editor after Jeff was long gone because I didn't want to work with Jeff, obviously, and then I got stuck doing this podcast with him.
I don't actually know what is happening with Bleacher Report with the Guardians. This is going to make me go look for things now.
You don't want to go there, believe me. Then I became the editor of Indians Baseball Insider / Guardians Baseball Insider, and I've been with the News Herald in different roles since 2015. Yeah, 2015. Now covering the Guardians minor league system and at Prospects Live. So all over the map.
The thing I'll say is I do miss the golden days of like when you were at, it's pronounced Lajoie on ESPN, right?
I've been really at
everywhere, but
it's pronounced Lajoie, fan-sided.
But it's like there was that golden era where like I was at IBI or IPI, you were there. There was like 7 or 8 really strong Guardians.
Was it Burning River baseball at one point?
Burning River, and did the Tribe win last night and waiting for next year? And I mean, I wrote it the Cleveland fan. Yeah, before the network got sold and that went under, I had stuff appear on there that but there was really a nice run for a time there where there was a really good run of like you could go and read at like 5 different sites, really interesting, really fun content. And now I feel like there's maybe 2 or 3 places that I even know exist, and it just stinks.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this kind of collapse of print media. Now get off my lawn, and let's talk about it's not even print media. What am I saying? I hate the collapse of internet blogging, where now everything's videos. Why all this YouTube? I'm kidding.
Pivot to video, right? That never, yeah. Well, Lucas Giolito obviously didn't want the most invaluable player of the Ohio Cup, which is fair because he has not been around long enough to earn it. I'm going to quiz you, Jeff, on the Ohio Cup, by the way. We're going to see how good your Ohio Cup trivia is today. So the Guardians, whoever wins on Wednesday takes home the Ohio Cup in 2023. Jeff, when was the last time the Ohio Cup was won outright? I will tell you this. It's been tied a couple times. And the tie always remains with the previous winner. So
2020.
Did you look that up?
No, that's a guess.
Wow. Typical teacher. Does well on tests.
I was just like, well, okay. So the way you're talking, it's not last year. It's not the year before that. It's either, so that means it's not 22 or 21. I was like, 2020 was a weird year. And Cincinnati made the playoffs, but they had like it was expanded playoffs. Cleveland. Well, it was expanded playoffs, and they had that late run. Like they were kind of almost viewed as dead at the trade deadline.
So who won the Ohio Cup in 2020?
I feel like it was Cleveland.
It
Am I
was
wrong?
3-1. That was the last time somebody won it
since
outright.
I just remember covering that series, doing this podcast, and being like, I mean, this Cincinnati team is dead in the water, and they've traded everything for this run, and they're not going to get anything out of it, and giving them a big post mortem, and then then Trevor Bauer learned how to properly, scuff baseballs and use foreign substance, and it's go and look at his data. Everyone who still like throughout this offseason, like go sign Trevor Bauer. It's like before he was damaging baseballs, that guy was lucky to be a 2-win pitcher every year in terms of WAR. Like he had one season in Cleveland, I believe, above 2.5. Like he was a 4.
Yeah, it was
for most of his run here, honestly.
When was the last time the Reds won the Ohio Cup?
2017. 2019. 18.
2014. So the Guardians / Indians have an 8-year run to defend here. The Reds last won in 2014, winning 3-1. Since then, the Indians / Guardians have won 9, 10, 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They've won 20, 23, 25, 26 victories in the last 8 years for the Ohio Cup. So
they're going to lose because looking at how they faced the Tigers and the Royals and the teams they dominated this year,
right?
It's been the opposite.
Well, the Reds are a better baseball team than Cleveland this year. Cleveland has played up to its competition and played down to its competition. So in theory, they should play better. And do you think the players want to send Tito out at home on a positive note? You know, they're going to honor him on Wednesday. They're going to have T-shirts. They're going to have the tribute video. So the players are going to want it. Shane Bieber is going to want to go out there and pitch a great game for himself and for Tito.
Yeah, the team that has pressed all year, operating well under pressure. So that more or less seals the loss. Can we also talk about the fact that like this team is still the team that has managed to get 2 sweeps all year, and the Kansas City Royals managed to do that in 1 week. In 1 week, last week, the Royals got as many sweeps as Cleveland has gotten all year. And there are still people who sit back and, talk about this or that. It's like, this is not a good team. You don't get up to 8th in the draft pick order when you're a good team. This team has struggled so much throughout this year. And tonight was a perfect encapsulation where even when the offense performs, the usual suspects in the bullpen crapped the bed. The starter was not good. Giolito, I mean, he's been every other start almost. It feels like half of his starts have been good, half have been not good. This is a guy who's probably still going to get
a multi-year contract,
top 3 money in free agency among starters because there's no starters to be had. So
it's him and Aaron Nola,
and Blake Snell. I saw a great tweet today that's like, Blake Snell is going to be the first guy to win a Cy Young in both leagues, and then whatever team signs him in free agency, the fan base is just going to be terrified because of his health issues. Like it's going to be, it's a weird.
Keep him under 6 innings. Clearly, the data shows that Kevin Cash was right. It didn't work out in 2020, but the data shows it works.
No, that's
data shows us that Andres Giménez had a great night. Bo Naylor had a great night.
His career? Is that the end of his year?
Wow,
his career.
That got dark fast.
There we go. There's Andres Giménez, career over. I just gave you the title for get some SEO.
Great. Well, that's not the SEO we're going to want, by the way. That's not good. But he fouled the ball at the inside of his knee. He had to come out. And then Gabby Arias was out before that with a wrist/hand thing. He lost the bat twice in the same at bat. So clearly something was going on with that hand.
Was that the hand he got hit by a pitch in? Right?
Yeah. So clearly something was going on there. I wouldn't be surprised if Wednesday that you see Brian Rocchio up because, and this could give the Guardians an excuse to IL Gavin Williams maybe, or just whatever they can't option him down because that would be a very clearly would cause a violation or some sort of
I just wonder if Gabby gets DL.
That could be it.
Can't even hold a bat.
Both of them being hurt, I would think Rocchio would need to come up to give them some clearance for the final 4 games this season just to be safe. You hope Giménez can play again because he's really finished the year on a very, very strong note. I know people were early in the year that, and look, we said the other day about the September with the BABIP and what he's doing isn't sustainable in September, but at least he has shown improvements. And I think you feel pretty solid about him going into next year. And Bo Naylor, a home run and a walk tonight. He has caught his brother Josh in F4 at 2.4 in half the games. Now, some of that is because Josh has negative defensive value because first basemen don't accrue any defensive value, truthfully, almost any. But 10 home runs gives Bo the most home runs by a Cleveland catcher since Austin Hedges did it in 2019. But before that, it was 19 by Perez in 2019. So it's been a long time. And again, 64 games, 10 home runs. That's pretty darn good. And defensively, things were a bit tight on Tuesday night. I mean, the Reds were able to steal a bunch of bases. There were a couple of balls that got away. Stuff that can be improved. But offensively, easily the Guardians, Cleveland's best offensive catcher since Carlos Santana. And again, I'll say, I know you said the other night about how had he played an extra month, he might have still struggled. But if you add like 200 at bats to his line, I kind of wonder if he ends up being in line for Rookie of the Year discussion. Although Gunnar Henderson was probably always going to win this award. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's a heck of a year. One can make an interesting debate over. Listen, it's Tanner Bibee is this team's Rookie of the Year, but you can at least make a debate, which is interesting and promising because at the same time, we just got done talking about how Bibee is like the best pitcher this team has had as a rookie since Herb Score. And now we're saying that Bo Naylor at least makes it a debate. So that just speaks to both of them. Speaking of things we need to speak to, I know we have to take a break here and you want to tell us all about our new sponsors in a moment, right?
Look, you don't have to choose between hair growth and your health. If you're one of those people out there losing your hair, hey, wearing hats, never know what's going to happen. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Its drug-free patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your health. Supports healthy hair growth by targeting the root cause, such as thinning is stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, metabolism through whole body health. And it works. Clinical study, 84% of men showed improvements in their hair after 6 months after taking Nutrafol's men's hair growth supplements. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. So find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals have recommended Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men. Enter that promo code LOCKEDON. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's Nutrafol.com/men. Guardians broadcast will have all of the action in the final game of the Ohio Cup. Shane Bieber trying to bring some hardware home for the Guardians at 6:10 on Wednesday. You can listen to all the action on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians. That's against Andrew Abb of the Reds. And Tito's final home game. It's going to be quite the end of an era. I'm very curious to see how this goes. Tito's not one of the guys that wants a whole lot of fanfare. He's being a player's first manager to the end. Zach Meisel, once again, dropped a great article on us today, just kind of going through the history. Mandy Bell had a good one, too, for MLB.com, just talking about his journey in baseball and the legacy he's leaving. Obviously, there were good and bad moments throughout his career. Like, you can look at it multiple ways, right? You can look at it as, he did end the Red Sox drought. He wasn't able to help end the Cleveland's baseball drought, obviously, but they got to the World Series. That was the only year they won a playoff series. They made the playoffs in 2013, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2020, and 2022. They did win a series in 2022. So that's a lie. So they did win a series in 2022, but the only time they got out of the first round was 2022 and 2016. But hard to argue that things haven't at least been changed for the better. I mean, you can argue the minutia of day-to-day stuff, decisions, But hard to argue, the last 10 years of baseball have not been good to watch. They've been good because they've been to the playoffs multiple times. They've had some good seasons, and he's got a winning record. They've generally run this division in that time. The most division titles in the last 10 years in the division, I believe, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing, as much as we want to sit back and be like, hey, they've only won 2, it's like we don't know what would have happened if they weren't, all the cheating, right? They ran that year that they set the record for most wins in a row. They then faced an Astros team, and
that was 2017. They faced the Astros in 2018. Yeah, the Yankees were doing some form of cheating, but
then it was also, I don't know, that's still the year that drives me insane, because that's the year they didn't throw Carlos Carrasco twice, even though he's the best pitcher down the stretch, right?
Yeah, and Kluber was not 100%.
And they threw him twice.
Edwin and Brantley were hurt.
Yeah.
Chisenhall wasn't 100%. So, yeah, they weren't really healthy in 2017. So, and they weren't healthy in 2016 either. They just rode the right combination. Yeah. That 2016 season.
Left. That's the most incomprehensible one with all the pitching injuries.
I at least say this. I know there's people out there who say they don't like how Francona's handled a bullpen. How he handled the entire pitching staff, everything in 2016 is the only reason they got to the playoffs, or they got to the World Series in 2016. They didn't have, they had 3 starters. They had Kluber, they had Josh Tomlin and Trevor Bauer. And then obviously Trevor Bauer had his drone incident in the ALCS. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people say that ruined the World Series for Cleveland. Bauer only got knocked out of that one game, and they won that game. It was a bullpen game, and then he pitched again after that, and he actually pitched okay in the World Series. Not great, but that didn't cost them. Not having Carrasco, having Salazar.
He was their 4th best starter then. Like, he was not good. He was passable. He was a solid starter. He wasn't anything to write home about. So without Salazar, without Carrasco, that team had no business getting as far as it did.
Yeah. I mean, having a bullpen of Cody Allen and Andrew Miller and Brian Shaw to go to, he could easily lean on Andrew Miller the way he wanted to. If you don't have that set up, then you can't do it. But hard to, obviously Andrew Miller won the ALCS in that season. You don't see a lot of relievers doing that, and that had a lot to do with his usage. Just a lot of win probability added. The Indians don't make the World Series that year without Andrew Miller, and they don't do it without Tito putting him in those spots. And I remember the quote from Jason Kipnis saying it was like against Minnesota, and it was like August after they had gotten Miller, and he was coming in the 6th inning, and Jason Kipnis was really confused about why he was coming in the 6th inning. And I remember the quote was just Tito telling him, just you wait and see how we're going to do this. And wasn't the plan to do without Carrasco at that point, wasn't the plan to do without Salazar at that point, but, he still made it work. The team believed in him. The decision to put Carlos Santana leadoff was ingenious, right? He did that. That was, that went very well.
It's weird. It's like the only time they really kind of did something that with a lineup where they went like against almost like heavy analytical. Like at the time, it was like, this is the ultimate analytical move, putting someone like him who gets on base and has some power. You actually want some power in the leadoff spot. You actually want someone who can get on base. It's like,
base. And Santana was a smart base runner. He wasn't fast, but he was a smart base runner. He just had a good baseball IQ, and he played left field in the World Series. He really did get a lot out of that team. I heard a quote from him today on Jason Stark's podcast, Starkville, talking about, he hasn't used the retired word yet, but he definitely is going to. Like, he's done enough media at this point to know he's going to do it. Talking about getting off-season surgeries and what comes next year. And he said, I'm going to get healthy this off-season, and we'll see what comes next. He did mention about him being part of the organization on there, that he'll talk to Antonetti and Chernoff about, other stuff. And sounds like he may have some sort of advisor role in the future with Cleveland. And like we said before, I think that
there's a relationship there.
There's a relationship, and it's not, again, I'm not saying that, he's going to pick the next manager, obviously, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Antonetti and Chernoff lean on him for a little bit of advice on the next manager, at least see what he thinks, because let's be honest, their managerial picks in this organization before Tito were Maniac and Eric Wedge. They did win with Eric Wedge one season, but the culture has changed since Tito got here, and they've been good since then. even without the best rosters. I mean, nobody thought coming into last year they were going to win the division. And then 2016, 2013 was a surprise at the end. 2016 was kind of a surprise. And then they crushed everything in 2017 in the second half. They got through it in 2018 with kind of a roster that was kind of coasting, waiting to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they won 93 games in 2019 by playing, who was it at the end of the season? Ryan Flaherty and a bunch of randos at the end. And that was the most wins by a non-playoff team in the wildcard era since 2005, when the Indians also did it. So, the times have been good here for all the things you can nitpick and the decision-making, the lineups and the bullpen stuff. Sometimes more good baseball than bad. And I think by a lot.
100%.
So things have definitely changed for the better, and you hope that they continue that culture. I did see Zach say on radio that he thinks they'll hire from the outside.
That's what I've been saying as well. I think they're going to be from the outside.
But it's interesting to say that, because this is a team that when they've lost Derek Falvey, when they've lost Carter Hawkins, they've promoted from within, right? So they continue to promote from within, but in this case, people think they might look outside. So
I think
it's just an interesting juxtaposition to what they've done versus thinking they'll hire from with the external this time.
Maybe it'll be who we talked about on. You can go back and listen to that show where I talked about an external candidate who's a kind of an internal candidate as well.
This is true. Go back and listen to that. We'll tell you where you can listen to that, and we will tell you more about Tanner Bibee's Rookie of the Year push and some stuff we didn't get to from yesterday on the Padres coming up.
Hello to all of our listeners here, and I'm going to pull out I have my Jase case. So what do you get in a Jase case? What specific medications do you get? Well, I have a ciprofloxacin, substitute for Cipro. I have a substitute for Augmentin, a substitute for Flagal, and a substitute for Lime Pack. You can go look and see what those are if you want more information, but these are all antibiotics. What I have here is a container full of life-saving antibiotics with a booklet that tells me what I can use them for and what situations and what things they are helpful. If you want to take control of your health, if you want to take control of your ability to deal with pain, to deal with infection, or if you just want to have something on hand in case you are, let's say, traveling somewhere, you're going out of the country, or you're going to maybe do some kind of roughing it for a travel the Appalachian Trail, something like that. It's good to have antibiotics at hand, and that's what Jase Medical is providing. They're giving you the ability to get life-saving antibiotics. To a doctor looks up your data, makes sure that everything is good, it's all above board, and it's fantastic. You can get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today with Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout at Jase Medical. That's JASE medical.com.
6:10, the final battle for the Ohio Cup, winner take all matchup on Wednesday at 6:10. You can listen to Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus call all the action on your Sirius XM app. Just search Guardians. The Athletic from Ken Rosenthal's column today also had a note in there about Tanner Bibee's Rookie of the Year candidacy, and I was just looking on Fangraphs too to see what the updates are. So Josh Young hasn't been all that good since he's come back. He's been hasn't really improved his numbers. If anything, they've actually gone down. Tanner Bibee, again, I've pointed this out before, but if you look at minimum 100 innings pitched in this season, Tanner Bibee is 19th in FIP. There's no pitcher even rookie pitcher close. I'm sorry, Kodai Senga, no AL rookie pitcher close to him in that leaderboard. So he is up there with a lot of great names, just not even rookies in general, but he is also 7th overall in ERA, minimum 100 innings at 2.98. He is just behind Kodai Senga there. Sonny Gray, Garrett Cole, I've mentioned this before, Blake Snell, all guys that are in the conversation for Cy Young. He is right up there. Look, Gunnar Henderson's going to win this race running away. It might even be unanimous, honestly. I think the AL, and if I had a Rookie of the Year vote, I think on either league, I would vote for Gunnar number 1. I would vote for Carroll number 1, and I think it should be unanimous. But You talked about Tristan Cassis. Maybe he hasn't played. He's been hurt. I know he's got the 24 home runs. I know he's got the big market thing, but he's got a little more volume. But first base 1.7. Will Masataka Yoshida get some votes? He only had a half a win this year, so he probably won't get any votes, truthfully, at all. I think
he'll get some from Boston. He's gonna.
So maybe him and Cassis split a little bit, but I think people are coming around. I think Tanner Bibee is going to wind up number 2 in this thing, unless Josh Young has an incredible final weekend. I don't think Cassis is going to finish number 2. I think he's a clear number 3, if not number 4. The only thing I wonder about is Josh Young. Again, he was an all-star, a starter by fan vote, and he's going to be on a playoff team. That's the only thing to me that we don't know. I don't know who has Rookie of the Year votes, and you never know what people value, what demographic they're in, that kind of stuff. I don't know, but I see more people coming around to the push. I'd like to see the Guardians social media and just in general maybe make a bigger push for Tanner Bibee for Rookie of the Year. I know it goes against the benefit of the organization, but hey, if he finishes second Rookie of the Year voting, it at least maybe brings the Guardians to the table to offer an extension sooner than later so they can get that hammered out and done. That would be a good thing for everybody to get him extended sooner than later.
Yeah, and he was an older player when he was drafted, so I think there's always, as much as there's a tendency to be like, oh yeah, it's not going to happen. I think there's still a chance for someone like him. You definitely want to get done sooner than later. Listen, he's top 3 candidate, no doubt. And as I talked about earlier, he's the best rookie pitcher they've had since Herb Score. So get it done. Like, this is a special season for him. It's probably he's still got more room for growth. It should only get better from here. So
absolutely, it should. Very quickly, I didn't get to this yesterday. I had something else on the list I wanted to talk about too, but we didn't get to this yesterday. So there was an article from the San Diego Union Tribune, I think.
Kevin Aker over there was a known writer, respected guy.
So he is saying that it's possible the Padres are going to want to cut some payroll. So they came into the season with a $250 million payroll. They want to get down to 200 next year. There's some talk about AJ Preller being on the hot seat. Look, this is not a good roster. I think it's a good top-heavy roster. Like, obviously, you've got a couple superstars. You've got Soto, and you've got Tatis, and you've got Machado and Bogarts, all very good players. Blake Snell might win the Cy Young. He should win the Cy Young. After that, it's not a great roster. Like, Ha-Seong Kim's okay.
He's good. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he's like...
It's a lot of defense, though.
Even his offense has really exploded this year. In fairness to him, he's got, I want to say, double-digit home runs, like over a 110.
Yeah, you're right. 36 steals.
Yeah, okay. he's having he had an explosion. I did look at Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim was at like a 115 weighted runs created plus the defensive value. Like, he's really good. But the problem is, after him, it's pretty much a cliff, and
it's a top-heavy roster.
Yeah, you need Cronenworth to rebound. Grisham he's been trending in the wrong direction. He's a flawed player, but he's plus Miles Straw because he's more productive offensively because of the power with the same level of defense, but worse on base skills. I don't know. It's that they're a bit of a mess, and they've traded away so much through the years, and they don't really have. I mean,
after the Guardians.
Yeah, and listen, Ethan Salas is great. They've drafted Snelling, looks like a fantastic pick. Lesko, a great pick. Jackson Merrill was kind of viewed as a surprise pick when they took him, and that's worked great. And all of this to say, though, is unfortunately a lot of those guys aren't available to help this year, maybe not even next year. And they are set to go to $171 million, and that's not counting, I believe, arbitration. And 30 million of that, 30 million for Tatis, which is likely, it will get them to 200 million. So was it like Nick Martinez has a $16 million option? They likely won't pick up. Michael Wacha has a they're going to need pitching, but we go through all this to say,
we're going to say the same thing, of course.
Yeah, they don't, who they're not trading the stars unless you're going to sit there and give up like Logan Allen for a year of, Soto, which I'm not willing to do. It's like, hey, if you want to gamble Espino, would you do Espino over Soto? Would you do that gamble? I'm still not sure if I want to do that gamble, because if Espino works out, then you've traded
for 1 year.
for 1 year like a guy who could win multiple Cy Youngs. So it's like, but and for anyone saying like, oh, how much can he be? He's going to be valuable. He's still, one of the best hitters in baseball. He's still going to be incredibly valuable. But he hasn't even turned 25 yet.
I do have an argument I want to make when the season's over about next year, about something like that, but I'll save it for the end of the season next week when we talk about this. The only guy I'm really interested in is Austin Nola. Austin Nola is ARB eligible next year. He's got 2 years of club control. He's 33, so he's a little older, but he did not have a great season. I think he's a contract. He's at a place in his financial career. The Padres would move on from him. He doesn't strike out that much. He walks. Look, he had a very miserable season offensively. He had a 38 WRC plus. That's still 48% better than what Cam Gallagher did. And Nola has been a good defender in the past. He's also flexible enough where he's played some infield previously too. I'd take him as a backup. Probably wouldn't take much to get him, and he'd be a good backup coming in.
Probably
next
free
year.
Because that's that. Though they could release him and save the money.
They could just non-tender him, so I'd still be. He's played some first, some second, some third in the past, not extensively, but
I talked about trying to acquire him. I believe in a solo show in the offseason, so it's like I'm right there with you. The San Diego stuff will come up, and it feels like much ado about nothing. There's still not a whole lot of teams. Like I said, I'm very intrigued to see what happens with that Angels team. That's I would still. Taylor Ward has been one of my targets for a while. We'll get into that more this offseason. That is, we didn't get into everything I want to talk about in terms of, we should point out that Cleveland is up to 8th in draft pick order, and we'll explain why that is very important on tomorrow's show. There is some reasons why getting up to that spot, getting up to 8th is a huge deal, and it's not just pool money. That's part of it, but there's a lot of things going in that we're going to point out. So make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show as we'll talk about that and talk about the Ohio Cup. But until then, we want to thank everydayers
Ohio Cup,
like John Fagan, and go Guardians go.